All right, so imagine you're a child, you're seeing all these awesome magical creatures and stuff, and you eventually come upon an animal that looks like a dragon that has no legs, like one of the Eastern dragons, just no legs. And that would be my experience with when I first saw my first snake. It was an albino Burmese python, and I wanted to have my own dragon. I didn't know that you could have them, but my uncle had one. And trying to ask for having one when I was smaller was kind of a tedious task because everybody was like, "No, that they will kill you. You'll be eaten by them." I'm just like, dude, like, what do you mean? Like, give me some actual answers that don't involve that. I'm hearing all this negativity about these animals, and then you hear some things that were actually nice, and I'm just like, me personally, I wanted to find out the truth myself. I wanted to see for myself what these animals were about and why they were so hated. And eventually, once I actually ended up getting one, she was a Burmese python. Got my first Burmese python. That's my first snake. There wasn't a lot of information out there online. Actually, I don't even think I had a computer until I was like 18 or 19. So that's when I was like introduced to Craigslist and stuff and ended up finding her there. And at that time, it was more like you didn't really have a lot of information for these animals. You had like the information maybe from the person that had them or bred them and stuff like that, but there wasn't a lot of good information. There wasn't a lot of good enclosures out there. You just had the bare basics of like whatever you could get. So of course I found out, and I got me an enclosure. It was a tank, 55 gallon, and starting off just like everyone else that really didn't know about them, because now we live in an online information where there's a lot of information out there. But back then, pretty much a lot of people started the way I did, just having the bad stuff and eventually learning and upgrading. Now, of course, I don't have her anymore because what happened was technically around the time that I got her, I was about to move to Florida, and I wasn't aware that they were banned in Florida at that time. Literally that same year that I got her, they had been outlawed as far as being able to be in Florida. So me moving to Florida, that I couldn't keep her, and I hated that. Like, ever since that happened, I hated the fact that she was no longer in my care. And to find out, in Florida, you couldn't even have big snakes. You couldn't, well, no, take it back, you couldn't have Burmese pythons. I was sold on Burmese pythons because that's the first one I seen. I didn't know anything about reticulated pythons. I didn't know anything about, I knew about green anacondas, but that was not the snake that I was trying to get at that time. I just knew that Burmese pythons were pretty much like the lap dogs of the giant snakes, and that's what I wanted. And from my experience with the one that I had, she was just sweet. She was awesome. So I wanted another Burmese python. And that made me move back to Tennessee because you could have them here. And it's always been like that here. You can have giant snakes here, and most of the time just out in the county. You can't have them a lot of times in the city limits without having a license to be able to keep them, anything over 6 foot in particular. Yeah, I'm just like, nah, if I'm gonna have my snakes, I'd prefer not to just have someone in here that probably doesn't really know much about snakes as much as I do, like, going at me over, oh, you shouldn't have this. And it's like, they could come in on a bad day. Your snakes could just poop, and so they can come in on a bad day and just instantly judge you right off the bat and think that you're keeping them in bad conditions and stuff. People, like, enclosures have wear and tear and stuff, and eventually have to replace them. From what I have learned over time is that, when you're getting enclosures for these animals, some people stop making them. Like, I have these awesome enclosures right here, and then I have animal plastic enclosures. Both great enclosures, but these are technically the superior ones. These are made from aluminum and PVC. They're for life. You keep them bad boys, they're for life. But the people that generally make them, they're not commercial. So it's like, you kind of get lucky if you do get them. They're not people that are actively out here trying to get people to buy them. It's just connections for the most part. And don't ask for that, because I'm gonna tell you right now, no. I haven't even been able to get in contact with them currently myself, so just leave me alone about these enclosures. But anyways, it was just, these animals have more of a magic property than me. People might think you're crazy for saying something like that, but it's like, it is what it is. As long as I'm taking care of them and you see the fruits of my labor of how I treat them, how I interact with them, it's always positive. It's always just awesome. It's always you see the personality in these animals, and that's because of how I interact with them and how I treat them because of my love for them. Like, I see them as more than what most people would see them. They're not instinctual animals. They have so much to them. Like, I have seen that a lot with the reticulated pythons. But getting into other animals, getting into other species like, boas, the green anaconda and everything, they have amazing personalities. All snakes will have their own individual personality. Of course, you don't want to get into anthropomorphizing them, but still, they have amazing personalities. So, as far as me getting into them, I've seen what happiness they have to bring to someone that gives them a chance. And ever since I've always had snakes, I've always just been happy. Like, period. I might have my good and bad times and stuff like that, but still, they bring just a happiness to me that really can't be described. When you can love an animal that doesn't give you something in return, like dogs and cats, if you can love something with no conditions, you don't expect anything from them, that's where you end up finding that the value of trust that comes from them when you are actually on their level and actually trying to earn that trust from them. Oh, just amazing. It is just, honestly, you can't really explain how it is because it's just awesome. But that's how my love for these animals has grown. I like the animals that I can give the world to with nothing in return. I just want them to be happy. But that's my personal take as far as why I ended up loving these animals and how I got into them. So, I'll do more personal vlogs and stuff like that if you guys like seeing that stuff, and talk about other personal things, and probably even get to see me go off on one of my tirades of being pissed off, because let me tell you, y'all love thinking that I'm just this sweet, nice girl. No, I beat someone's ass in a heartbeat. So anyways, till next time.